Brazil has the 10th largest economy in the world and one of the most unequal distributions of wealth and land. Almost 50% of agricultural land in Brazil is owned by just 1% of the population. It's an anomaly that the Brazilian government views as a primary cause of poverty and hunger. But to date, the pace of land reform has been slow.
O que acontece hoje no Brasil? A terra serve.
What's happened today in Brazil?
A terra serve.
The land is used for speculation.
Reserva de mercado.
The land is used as a commodity.
Ela está a serviço de uma.
The land has to be there for the people who really need it.
Tem que estar a serviço da população.
Under Brazilian law, the government can compulsory purchase unused farmland and give it to landless workers for free. Recently, the government set up a new program which requires workers to pay for land. But critics claim it undermines the land reform policies. The arguments over land reform go back centuries to the foundation of modern Brazil. When the Portuguese first settled here, huge estates were shared out between a small number of aristocrats. 500 years later, little has changed. But now there's a new move back to the land. As Brazil's megacities grew increasingly squalid and dangerous, thousands of poor Brazilians fled. Their aim? To make their living from the land. It's a movement that's increasing pressure on the government to act. In January 2004, 60 families organised by the Landless Workers Movement, the MST, occupied a farm owned by an absentee landlord in the state of Bahia.
People call us the excluded ones, excluded from society. We have the militants who talk to people about land reform. We invite them to join us, then we gather the families and we go and occupy the land. Why do we need a piece of land? To give our children a better future. We want to plant the land, to produce. We only occupy the land if it isn't being used. Once we occupy the land, we have our own resources. Let's see it this way. If you live in the city and you want tomatoes or onions, you have to buy them. Here, we don't have to do that. We can plant, eat what we plant, and also sell to the market in the city. Then we have our own money. We take our food from our own land. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. These are my friends. Tell them your names.
Maria José de Jesus Santos.
Ana Rita Santos de Andrade.
Carla Adriana de Jesus dos Santos.
Karine da Silva Lopes.
José Agostinho dos Santos.
Diga, fale.
Jesus Santos.
Aí.
We are here to put pressure on the government so we can succeed in owning our own piece of land. We don't know how long it will take until the day when the government will give us this land. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Conrad Wellington, and he's Conrad Graça. We are all here for the same purpose, and I would like to know what is your purpose here.
Well, my purpose here is to get a piece of land and plant on it.
I think the hope and future of all of us as Brazilians lies in the countryside. The big cities offer many things, but for people lacking an education, lacking a good knowledge of things, middle and lower class people, we suffer because we don't have the education to get good jobs. We don't have the space to live either. So our solution is to return to the land.
Article 184 of the 1988 Brazilian Constitution gives the federal government the power to compulsory purchase large rural property, provided that it is not carrying out its social function and that just compensation is paid to the owner. Under its land reform policies, the government can give the landless title to this land at no cost. While for the landless the term social function implied that land must be used to produce for the benefit of society, large landholders contested the definition in the courts. They were unhappy with compensation offered in the form of 20-year bonds, and they used their political clout to obstruct any significant land reform. In 1997, the government joined the World Bank to introduce a land credit project. The credit meant that small farms, which could not be compulsorily purchased under the Constitution, could now be bought by the landless with government loans, making an immediate cash payment to the landholder. Although set up by the previous government, President Lula da Silva supports the scheme.
The fact is, we have an enormous quantity of land in our country, and some of this land comprises small and medium-sized properties that are not being used productively. But there is no legal instrument which permits the government to expropriate these properties. So in this case, the land credit project is a fundamental instrument. There are more than 40 million hectares of land in Brazil, where access to land through the land credit project would play a fundamental role. So this project, funded by the government and the World Bank, which has made these lands available to urban and rural workers, has been very important in many regions.
4 years ago, Bento Pereira dos Santos joined together with other landless workers to purchase the Vila Canar property under the Land Credit Project.
I enjoy my life. I'm happy because before I suffered working on other people's land, working like crazy, selling my labor and using my sweat to try and survive. But today I live without anyone's help, and for me that's already really satisfying. Here we produce beans, corn, flour, watermelon, zucchini, and we sell everything at the market. We harvest it all and take it to the market. In the old times, when I was a day laborer, I wasn't able to make one basic minimum wage. But today, I can make something like 2 minimum wages each month. And all the money I make here is enough for me to live and still have a little bit to buy something or save.
With the money he makes from selling his produce, Bento has built a new house and improved living conditions for his family.
Here's my fridge, my stove. Here I get my family and relatives. And then, to make my food quickly, I bought the 6-element stove. I have a house, I have water, my son is at school, and I'm in good health. It's all really for my children, thank God, and thanks the government. This government was really marvelous.
4 years ago, the settlement at Vila Canar didn't exist. Today it is a functioning community with a school, flour mill and a church.
We arrived here, in this area, and the land was really rough. It had nothing. We started building shacks. We had to get the water from 3 or 4 kilometers away. Very mud water, not good water. But you needed land so much, we were desperate. We weren't in a good financial position like today. We were living only with other people's help. Then we developed the land and they built the houses.
Under the Land Credit Programme, 27,000 farmers have to date been settled on 750,000 hectares of land. A new World Bank loan of $200 million was approved in 2000. It has allowed the project to scale up, expanding into 14 states. The aim is to settle 130,000 families. While the number of people settled through compulsory purchase, around 100,000 per year, is far greater, the project is a priority for many state governments and federal deputies.
This project is a part of a bigger program of the federal government, the land reform program. But it's a very important part. In the case of Bahia, for example, we are giving total priority to this land credit project. Why is that? Because the project is working, because people are producing, because people are happy, they have a good quality of life, which is not always the case where people have access to land, but don't have access to the means of production.
But many other Brazilians are not happy with the land credit programme. Some see it as a threat to the existing land reform programme. For Brazil's landless peasants movement, by making people pay for land, the land credit programme fundamentally undermines the existing land reform programme. The movement, MST, was founded in 1985 and has around 1.2 million activists. It uses mass occupations to pressurise Brazil's government to compulsorily purchase unproductive land. Confrontations between landowners, police and the MST have resulted in several hundred deaths. But MST claims success in forcing the previous government to settle almost 400,000 families in 4 years. The MST claims the expansion of the land credit programme and its dependence on the market is undermining the movement's moral foundation and depoliticising land reform.
Agora, enquanto o programa Sete da Terra, esse programa que é financiado...
We are against the land credit program because this program is about buying the land in Brazil, which is not land reform.
Porque isso não é reforma agrária. Nunca
We are not against the people who participate.
que querem...
We are against the program of land credit, which is land reform via the market. As if the market can regulate this question of land.
fazer com que a reforma agrária...
The MST would like to organize these people, to help them fight for their rights, to give them a political conscience, to follow their own life. This is fundamental for us.
a ser visto
The land needs to produce the necessary food for society.
na sociedade.
This is what people need to understand. Its function is to produce, so people has the right to live on it. At this moment, the Brazilian people need the land to be productive.
Está a ser visto
It's been used for speculation. It's been used as a commodity.
no exato momento.
What we are going to do is to make the land productive, from producing beans to corn to rice.
O arroz...
3 years ago, Edmilson gave up his life in the city to join the MST and occupy unused land owned by an absentee landlord in northern Bahia. The government land reform agency, INCRA, has now compulsorily purchased the property and Edmilson has been given legal title.
This passion fruit, that's manioc. There are 2 types of manioc, one for food and one to make flour.
E a mandioca? Aqui é mandioca. Essa já é
People come and buy the manioc from me.
se come. Tem gente que, quando tem carro, que precisa vir pegar o empinha aqui mesmo.
Before, I used to work 1 month to make 200 reais.
Os companheiros meus compram por
And now, with a piece of land like this, every time I cut and sell manioc, and I make the same amount.
R$200. Para eu fazer R$200 a
So I can easily have the money to go to the market 3 or 4 times a month.
Eu faço R$200 em 4 cargas de empim. Tá certo? Então,
I always thought about buying a piece of land, but I never had the money.
Isso aqui é o que 4 cargas. Assim,
The only thing I bought was a very small plot. We built a shack on it,
fazer 3 feiras ou 4 feiras para dentro de casa. Entendeu?
and then had just enough room to hang the washing outside.
Só tive condições mesmo de
The only thing I could do was to join the MST. Thank God. And now I could build 10 houses. If you need a space for your whole family, I can put them up here, no problem. The women didn't understand. They would say, this movement is a mess. People killing each other. Those crazy people. They are all mad. But all of this was just an impression from watching TV. Even I thought they were crazy, and now I am one of them, and our fear of them has gone away. When we joined the MST, we decided to stick with it. 1 year has passed, and we had the first eviction. Then there was a second, and one more year. The owner of this land only used it to grow eucalyptus trees. But there was a problem with INCRA not paying him on time, so they evicted us again. Then they sorted out the problem, and it all finished fine. You never give up. I'm going to introduce my family. Come here, darling.
Essa aqui é minha esposa Elizabeth Silva Santo.
My wife.
Patrícia.
My daughter.
Aqui é a filha. Aqui
my granddaughter.
É a neta.
My other granddaughter.
Família. Cagalo. Aqui também.
This is the husband of one of my daughters. He belongs to our family.
Porque isso aqui é patrimônio. Isso aqui pra gente é patrimônio. Que não é para venda.
This land is my heritage. I'm not going to sell this, and I will never sell this land. It's for me, my children, and my grandchildren.
Não desperdiçar.
But today, even for the MST, going back to the land may now come at a price. 40 miles away is the MST camp of Fazenda Brigio, established 7 years ago. The government land reform agency, INCRA, has recommended the people here purchase the land under the Land Credit Project.
Sim, esta área ela não tem a possibilidade de ser. It's a small property, and INCRA doesn't expropriate small properties. So the only possibility is that we apply for the land credit program. But we are still thinking about that. That would be our last option. If there's no other way, then we will have to do it.
Mas essa seria, a gente está estudando ainda esse caso. Seria a última.
The MST occupies the land and you don't pay anything for it. But the land credit program is different because the government comes and buys this farm and then sells it to you. So you pay for it. Every 2 years you have to pay with the money you make from selling your produce. And if the date you have to pay comes around and you didn't grow anything and have no money, you'll be kicked out of here.
Você não vai pagar nada por ela.
We don't support the land credit program because if we had the money to buy land, we wouldn't be here. These people have been living here for 7 years, suffering, trying to get this land. So for us, it's not interesting to buy the land. The land is ours and it's our right to occupy it.
Você não produziu para pagar, você é tirado daqui de dentro.
The farmers over there buy and don't grow anything. So the land is not for that. But I didn't buy my land, but I grow things from my own sweat. They have all their land there, but people are dying of hunger. So that's wrong. It's unjust.
While the MST remains committed to abolishing the Land Credit Project, the government argues that the project actually complements the land reform programme, but it does acknowledge its limitations.
There is a problem, which is the structural limitation of the program. It relies on the willingness of the owner to sell the land, so there is no active role for the government to intervene. In this sense, it's not a substitute for land reform in Brazil, but complementary. Why? Because the instruments we have in this country permit an active political role by the government in obtaining lands which don't fulfill their social function. It's obvious there are differences between the projects, but in our opinion, they are complementary in allowing more and more workers access to the land.
New occupations of the land continue. Across Brazil, more than 50 properties have been invaded since mid-March 2004. Brazil's President Lula da Silva has announced plans to resettle more than 100,000 landless families in 2004 and promised an extra $500 million towards land reform over the next 2 years. Whether Brazilians obtain land through occupation, compulsory purchase, or paying the price, one thing is clear. For those who achieve it, access to land can only lead to a better life for most Brazilians.
My life is calm. No matter how hard I work, like digging with a hoe, for example, it's better than working for somebody else. Before, I didn't have the freedom I have today, or this peaceful life on the land.